The executive elevator at Manhattan Business Tower had never stopped on the 25th floor at 3 in the morning, but that night James Washington stood there with his mop bucket and gloves, staring through the tinted glass at a scene he would never forget. Victoria Sterling, the untouchable CEO whose face had been on magazine covers, collapsed face first on a mahogany boardroom table that probably cost more than James made in a year. Her face twisted, her left arm dangled like dead weight, and when she tried to speak into her phone, the words slurred out like broken glass. James knew instantly what it was, a stroke. And in that split second, he also knew he was the only person who could save her. He didn't have a medical degree, didn't wear a white coat, but he had Dorothy. His wife, gone 5 years now, had been a neurology nurse who used to turn every dinner into a class on saving lives. James heard her voice clear as day. "Jamie, if you ever see the face drop, the arm go limp, the words stumble, don't wait. Act." So he acted. He pushed open the door and said, calm but firm, "Miss Sterling, you're having a stroke. Don't speak, just listen." Her eyes flickered in panic, words dissolving into nonsense. But James was already calling 911, rattling off symptoms with such precision that the dispatcher asked if he was a doctor. Minutes later, paramedics stormed in, and by the time they whisked her away, James had her positioned safely, her timeline documented, her odds of survival vastly improved. Then he picked up his mop and went back to work. Just another night for the invisible janitor, except it wasn't. Because the next morning, instead of gratitude, James found a warning slip taped to his locker. Unauthorized use of the executive elevator, improper access to corporate facilities. Signed by Wilson Carter, head of security and resident bully who measured his worth by how miserable he could make other people. James folded the paper slowly, not angry but wary. 15 years spotless, never a complaint. And now this? The irony stung. Save the CEO's life, get punished for it. But what really rattled him was the timing. How did Carter know so fast? Confidentiality should have kept the whole thing under wraps, which meant someone was watching Victoria a little too closely. That suspicion grew when James noticed Dr. Patterson, Victoria's personal physician, arrive late and visibly agitated, slipping into Carter's office for a hushed conversation. Through the glass, James caught fragments of irritation, panic even. Dorothy's words came back to him. When an executive collapses out of nowhere, don't ask why now. Ask who benefits. For the first time, James wondered if Victoria's stroke wasn't just stress. Maybe it was something far darker. The question became unavoidable when Victoria herself summoned him. Sitting straighter now, her strength partially returned, she fixed him with a gaze that was equal parts curiosity and gratitude. "You saved my life, James. The doctor says your actions were critical. Where did you learn all that?" Talking about Dorothy still hurt, but he told her. She listened quietly, then asked something that stopped him cold. "Do you think my symptoms were natural?" He hesitated, told her it wasn't his place. But when she confessed that Patterson had brushed off years of headaches and dizziness as stress, James knew Dorothy would be shouting from the grave. That wasn't negligence. That was malpractice, or worse. And right on cue, Carter was in the hallway when James left her office, watching him with a smile that carried a warning. It was clear now, something bigger was unfolding, and James, the janitor no one noticed, had accidentally stumbled into the middle of it. But invisibility, he realized, could be an advantage. For 2 weeks, he blended into the background while quietly watching. He saw Patterson slipping into Carter's office 3 times a week with that same brown briefcase. He overheard Patterson whisper about progressive cardiovascular deterioration while assuring Carter the official reports were within normal parameters. He nearly dropped his mop when Carter replied, "Perfect. 6 months with the vitamins I'm prescribing. Then the next episode should finish the job." Vitamins. They were drugging her, deliberately pushing her toward collapse. James might have doubted his own ears if not for Marcus Johnson, an HVAC tech who'd served in Afghanistan. Younger, sharper, but equally invisible, Marcus pulled him aside one day. "Man, I heard Carter on the phone talking stocks. Said he was buying up Sterling shares before leadership changes. You think that's connected?" The pieces clicked. If Victoria died, Carter, as security chief and board insider, would temporarily steer the company, manipulating stock prices to cash in. Attempted murder and financial fraud rolled into one. Dorothy had always said the worst criminals were the ones who wore suits and swore oaths. Together, James and Marcus hatched a plan. Marcus, with his military know-how, installed mics and micro cameras through ventilation ducts. James coordinated around cleaning schedules. Within days, they had hard proof. Patterson and Carter openly discussing increasing Victoria's vitamin dosage while joking about headlines blaming stress. James listened to the recordings 3 times, his jaw tight. Dorothy's mantra burned in his chest. Knowledge without action is complicity. He couldn't stay quiet now. What followed was a campaign of quiet precision. James slipped Victoria a note during a board meeting. The vitamins you're taking aren't vitamins. Check the bottle. Someone who cares. He watched her face stiffen as she examined the pills in her purse. Later, during Patterson's consultation, she confronted him. Calm, sharp, like the CEO she was. What if I send these for testing? Patterson stammered, blustered, tried to dissuade her. Exactly the kind of behavior Dorothy had always said screamed guilt. Meanwhile, Marcus was delivering the recordings, documents, and financial data to the FBI, SEC, and a hungry journalist at the Tribune. When James finally sat across from Victoria again, he laid out everything. The tapes, the falsified reports, the stock manipulations. She listened in silence, her expression shifting from disbelief to fury. James, you didn't just save me, she said at last. You exposed a conspiracy. And she proved it the next morning when Carter arrived at a supposed emergency meeting only to find FBI agents waiting. His smugness cracked into panic as he was cuffed on charges of attempted murder and fraud. Patterson was arrested the same hour, caught deleting files like a rookie criminal. For men who thought themselves untouchable, the humiliation was exquisite, the fallout was national. Headlines blared. Janitor exposes corporate murder plot. Victoria held a press conference, not only confirming James's role, but promoting him to Director of Corporate Safety and Integrity with a 6-figure salary. Cameras flashed as she declared, competence isn't about degrees or titles. It's about character. And James Washington has more character than most of us put together. Across the country, workers saw themselves in his story. An invisible man who refused to stay invisible when it mattered most. 6 months later, James sat in his own office on the 26th floor, a nameplate on the door, a team of investigators under his direction, and a scholarship program in Dorothy's honor funding medical students from working-class families. Marcus was now head of electronic security. Victoria had transformed her company into a model of corporate integrity, stock tripling under her leadership. And Carter? He was rotting in a federal prison, his arrogance impressing no one. Patterson? Selling medical equipment door to door, his license gone forever. One afternoon, Victoria stepped into James's office with news. Congress wanted his testimony on corporate medical reform. He looked at Dorothy's framed photo and whispered, "We did it, baby." He had turned grief into power, invisibility into strength, and justice into something undeniable. Still, he couldn't shake one haunting thought. If he hadn't been there that night, if he hadn't noticed the symptoms no one else saw, how many more Victorias were out there right now, suffering under the weight of arrogance disguised as authority? So let me ask you, what do you think? Was this justice served, or just one small victory in a system rigged to protect the powerful until someone like James breaks through? Should true competence be judged by credentials or by actions when the moment comes? I'd love to hear what side you fall on.